what does it mean to connect to idea? How do we connect to an idea? How do we integrate an idea? And I would say that talking about it, first of all, I don't know, not really theoretically. It's not theoretically, it's practically, but it's at a, let's say, less immediate or tangible level of practicality, is to think about an idea really deeply, right? And in the purest form, this would be doing some sort of deep contemplation, some form of meditation, really, really spending time and effort to focus on the idea to the point that we start to really connect to it and integrate it into who we are. Now, doing that, doing this, contemplating, meditating, is much easier said than done. It can be done, but it's something that takes time, and a lot of time over a long-term consistent discipline and practice to be able to really do that. It's a very difficult thing. Hashtag real talk. It's very hard to sit down and think about something deeply like that for more than, 4.5 seconds. Practically speaking, let's be real, right? But there are things we can do to do that tangibly, practically in life today and tomorrow, before we, build up that strength and discipline to be able to really focus on these ideas in a sort of that sort of way, in that approach of contemplation, meditation. And these are things that can be very effective. Ultimately, what we want to do is think about ideas, right? But thinking's not such an easy thing to do. But there are some things we can do to force ourselves to think, to make the thinking happen. And a couple of what I think are probably the best and most practical examples that are accessible to everybody are writing. And this is why journaling is becoming so popular, because when we journaling about gratitude, journaling about the good things in life, journaling just about our day and our experiences generally. When we writing is a tangible action that draws things out of our mind. It draws things out of our brain. Right? When we write, it forces us to clarify ideas and we express them, which makes them accessible. You can have a thought in your head that you're not even aware that you're thinking. You can't write something down on a piece of paper without being aware of the fact that you're writing it and without being aware of the idea that you're writing. So when we write, it's a very practical, tangible tool to force ourselves to think consciously. So writing about why we're here, writing about why the Creator put us individually here, writing about the difference that we can make, writing about how and why the things we do matter. And writing about it on a regular basis can be extraordinarily powerful. Writing for 2, 3, 5 minutes every morning and every evening, even better. And we can come at it from different angles, but if we write about something that's related to our purpose and why we're here, write about something that's related to the meaning of our actions, of our lives, and super importantly is to do it consistently. It's better to do it 2 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day than to do it for 20 minutes once a week. Doing it for 3, 4, 5 minutes twice a day, morning and evening, even better, amazing. Spending a few minutes every day writing about these things and about ideas that are related to our purpose and the meaning of our lives can very quickly have a very, very deep impact on the way that we look at the world around us, the way that we look at our lives, the way that we perceive and experience our lives, and the sense of purpose and meaning that we have throughout the day. And doing it consistently is an incredible investment in ourselves, an incredible investment in our well-being, in our quality of life, in how rewarding our lives are. And the return on that investment, the ROI on that, is completely disproportionate. It's indescribably disproportionate to the resources that we're allocating, the resources that we're investing, the time and effort that we're putting in. And it is a lot of effort. It doesn't necessarily have to be that much time, but especially at the beginning, it takes a lot of effort to get started and to build up the habit and the routine. Once we build it up, it becomes easier. It does take less effort over time. But putting in time to think, and another one, before I tie it up, another tool that we can use to make ourselves think in addition to writing, or an alternative to writing, because not everybody likes writing, is talking. We can talk to a friend if we're lucky enough to have a friend that's really close, that we can be open and honest and vulnerable with, and to talk about these things the way that we really see it and think about it and feel it, on a regular basis. And that may not be so realistic, especially if we want to aim for 3 to 5 minutes in the morning and 3 to 5 minutes at night right before we go to bed. Doing it before bed is a really good idea, because if the last thing we do before we go to bed is allocate time to thinking about our purpose, why we're here, and what our lives mean, if that's the last thing on our mind before we close our eyes and go to bed, that's going to be at the forefront, and that's going to really have a lot of influence over what our brains are spending time processing and marinating in over the course of the night while we're asleep. But that doesn't have to be right before bed, but 3 to 5 minutes in the morning, 3 to 5 minutes in the evening. Obviously more is better, but consistent is key. Talk to yourself. Talking to ourselves, if you have a space where you can talk to yourself out loud in a room that's private, that you can feel comfortable. It must be private, but that was such a Brooklyn thing to say. Doesn't must be private. That's terrible English, but it's actually very effective. It's very clear about what it means. It doesn't must be private. It doesn't need to be private, but realistically speaking, for you to be comfortable to really do it, to talk to yourself, most of us are probably not going to be comfortable to talk to ourselves in front of someone else. So if you have a place that's quiet, that's private, that you can be comfortable to just talk to yourself out loud. Talk out loud, describe out loud verbally with your mouth so that your ears hear it, about what life means to you, what your purpose is, why you're here, what life means to you, what you mean to the universe, what you mean to the people around you, the difference you can make in the world. And again, speaking forces us to clarify that. It extracts it, it expresses it out of our mind, and forces us to be aware of it, and forces it to have an impact on us. And the time and effort that we invest, number one, in our understanding of why we're here, and the impact and meaning of our lives and actions. And then number two, really connecting to that idea and integrating it into who we are with, the deep thought, contemplation, meditation, or writing, journaling, talking. The time and effort that we allocate to doing that investment is probably, I would say, maybe definitely one of the greatest investments we can ever make in ourselves. One of the greatest investments we can make in personal development, in developing ourselves, and in having tremendous and profound impact on our well-being, on how rewarding our lives are, and on our overall quality of life. If you haven't yet, click on the subscribe button, then click on the notification bell to see future videos. And please, again, share the link wherever you share things, on social media, Facebook, wherever it is, WhatsApp groups, WhatsApp status, to help this message reach more people. This has been the Bites of Judaism podcast. This podcast has been made possible by Mr. and Mrs. David and Malki Smetana. If you found it valuable, please leave a 5-star rating and a review. It really does help it reach more people. And tell your friends about it. If you haven't yet, you can subscribe on all the major podcast platforms at rabbiglick.link/podcast. To dedicate a future episode of the podcast, send an email to podcast@rabbiglick.com. See you next time.